Welcome in episode 90. What's Right with Nick Wright, the podcast and YouTube show live on YouTube right now. Drop your comments, questions, replies, all of that. We have a jam-packed show for you today. We have coming up the end of the show, our book club, first official meeting of the book club. Last week was like a soft launch into the book club. This is the book, E.H. Gombrach's A Little History of the World. We'll do that in about 40 minutes. I was going to give DeMonte a hard time because his book is still, appears to be on page 11. However, I forgot my book today, so he had his with him, so I'm going to give him a pass. It doesn't mean you're going to have about 150 pages to read before we're back next week, so you're going to have to get on that. We'll do that in about 40 minutes. We're going to talk all things week 8 or 9 in the NFL shortly. Before we even, though, get to what's not on the show today, I want to spend just a moment talking about episode 89. So, we did a 20-minute discussion about what was going on with Kyrie. And close to, 80,000 people have watched the full 20 minutes on YouTube. We clipped it down, our great social media producer, Lori, clipped it down to 10 minutes and put that on social. And hundreds of thousands of people have watched it there. I say that not self-congratulatory, but because one of the reasons I am so glad to have this specific platform is it allows for, I think, nuanced, important discussions that you don't really have the room for on television. At least not on the type of television I do. And whether it be when we were talking about the Brett Favre story or other things we have done where we've really been able to kind of peel back a few layers and get into the things that really matter, it scratches an intellectual and a social justice itch that I have that I need to have scratched, but also B, it is meaningful to me on levels that I think you and the audience, it's going to be hard to fully understand how much it matters to me that those conversations seem to resonate with you and that those conversations do as well, if not better, as far as the metrics on are people actually watching and listening to this than some of our silly sports stuff. So I greatly appreciate the folks who are watching live or who have taken the time. I had a neighbor of ours show came out Monday, on Tuesday, I was walking decks and a neighbor stopped me and said to me, a friend of mine, who's a Jewish fella, said a friend of mine sent me your video on Kyrie not knowing we're neighbors just because he had seen it. Right. And wanted him to see it. Right. That stuff means the world to me. So I really, really appreciate you guys who have vibed with us on that level and give us the creative freedom to do something as silly as a book club that's starting with a 100-year-old history book. Okay, now to the show. Here is what did not make the cut for today's show. The first college football playoff rankings being announced did not make the cut. Dan Snyder exploring selling the Commanders. That didn't make the cut, but KD had a bit of a tweet storm yesterday. One of the tweets was to Randy Scott of ESPN when Randy said KD should be part of the ownership team, and KD said, I agree with you on that. That would be fun. And the Astros tying the World Series at 2 games apiece, and the Phillies getting combined no-hit in the World Series. Amazingly, none of that made the cut. We will get into the Lakers win last night at some point, even though the producers didn't put it in the show. Every Lakers win's a meaningful moment at this point in the season. But right now, DeMonte, where are we starting?
Let's start off with Steve Nash. After starting the season 2-5, the Nets and Steve Nash decided to part ways. Mm-hmm. KD said he was shocked by the split. That makes one of us.
Yeah.
On TV, you said that the Nets' only option is to salt the earth and start over.
Yeah.
But Kyrie's latest scandal and arguably the worst game of his career, his value was at an all-time low, obviously.
Yep.
And teams weren't willing to pay for KD in the offseason. So if the players are the problem, is firing Nash actually going to fix anything?
Okay, so firing Nash was a necessary step.
Yeah.
It is not going to fix things, right? But it was something they had to do. With that said, on the Kyrie thing, I do want to read you, because we spent so much time on the Kyrie thing, the statement, a joint statement that the Nets, Kyrie Irving, and the Anti-Defamation League released. I'm going to read you that. We'll spend a moment on my thoughts on that, and then we'll get to what the Nets do.
Right.
I'll read it quickly. The events of the past week have sparked many emotions within the Nets organization, Brooklyn community, and the nation. The public discourse that followed has brought greater awareness to the challenges we face as a society when it comes to combating hate and speech. We are ready to take on this challenge, and we recognize that this is a unique moment to make a lasting impact. To promote education within our community, Kyrie Irving and the Brooklyn Nets will each donate $500,000 toward causes and organizations that work to eradicate hate and intolerance in our communities. The Nets and Kyrie will work with the ADL, a nonprofit organization devoted to fighting anti-Semitism and all types of hate that undermine justice and fair treatment for every individual. This is an effort to develop educational programming that is inclusive and will comprehensively combat all forms of anti-Semitism and bigotry. That statement. Within the statement is this quote from Kyrie. I oppose all forms of hatred and oppression and stand strong with communities that are marginalized and impacted every day. I am aware of the negative impact of my post towards the Jewish community, and I take responsibility. I do not believe everything said in the documentary was true or reflects my morals and principles. I am a human being learning from all walks of life, and I intend to do so with an open mind and a willingness to listen. So from my family and I, we meant no harm to any one group, race, or religion of people, and wish to only be a beacon of truth and light. End quote. So here's the deal. I believe Kyrie I don't think Kyrie's a hateful person, and I said it on Monday. I don't think Kyrie's anti-Semitic. I don't think he has hate in his heart for anybody. I also, to this day, am not convinced he watched the whole movie, which is 3 hours long. And he implied, it was weird at the press conference, because he was like, I Googled my name, and then this came up, and then this came up. Right. And then somebody immediately followed it with, did you read the book? And he was like, I read a lot. I had a lot of time to read last year. But, like, so you're implying you read the book last year, but you found the documentary by Googling your name. It didn't really make a lot of sense. So my initial gut reaction and gut feeling from the beginning was that Kyrie did not believe that fabricated Hitler quote about Jews and did not believe the other fabricated quote about the Holocaust not really killing 6 million Jews, but instead promoted a movie, felt boxed in, and the only way he knows how to get out of being boxed in is to punch out, and found out he couldn't punch himself out of this spot. On the one serious note on this, and I applaud him, $500,000, and I do believe Kyrie wants to unite people. I do believe that. The problem is, and we don't have to spend much time on it, same problem was before, that wanting to learn is very, very, very good. Wanting to learn without the ability to discern, am I consuming good information or bad information? Shouldn't say good information or bad information. Am I consuming accurate information or inaccurate information is incredibly dangerous.
Right.
It is far safer to be uncurious dumbass than to be a super curious, kind of smart guy that can't tell, am I reading BS or not BS?
Right.
And I think Kyrie is super curious, and I think on certain things he's pretty smart, but he is no good at and we said it on the previous show, the earth is flat thing he believed. Maybe he doesn't still believe it. He believed it. And that's because he was presented information. It was compelling. It looked official. And they raised just enough questions of, well, don't you only believe the earth is round because you've been told it? What if you've been, and by the way, on the flat earth stuff, nobody has ever once answered this question. What's the goal? So it's this multi-decade international highest levels of government and science conspiracy. To what end?
Right.
Like people that don't believe we landed on the moon, at least they can answer the question, well, why would they fake it? Well, we were in a Cold War with the Soviets. We were trying to show them that we had technologically advanced. We were trying to raise American morale. There were a lot of... I don't believe we faked it. But at least that one...
It makes sense.
There's
The government
a lot of the conspiracy theories out there, the reason they're compelling is that you understand why they would have done it.
Right.
They're covering something up, or they're trying to get you to do something. The flat earth stuff, there was never a win.
Yeah.
It's like we're just going to lie to kids from the time they're 4. We're going to get every astronaut, airplane pilot, government official, scientist all in on it.
Right.
And our big win is what? Nobody's ever answered that. So, but once you'll believe that, you'll believe almost anything. That's where Kyrie was. Okay, now to the Nets. I did say they should salt the earth and start over. Here is an unbelievable stat. They moved to Brooklyn a decade ago. In that time, they have had on their team Kevin Durant, James Harden, Kyrie Irving, Kevin Garnett, Paul Pierce, Darren Williams. In that decade. They have more seasons with less than 30 wins than they have playoff series victories. In that decade, they have 3 seasons where they were one of the very worst teams in basketball, and in that decade, they have gotten out of round 1 twice and gotten out of round 2 0 times. Here's another thing about the Nets. Draft picks coming in, draft picks going out. What they have coming in 2027, they get Philadelphia's first-round pick unless it's in the top 8. That's what they have coming in. So likely 2027 first-round pick unless this Embiid leaves, the Sixers tank in 5 years. Going out this year, Houston can swap with them. Next year, they give Houston their pick. 2025, Houston can swap with them. 2026, they give Houston their pick. 2027, Houston can swap with them. So over the next 5 years, if Houston ever gets good, they switch picks.
Right.
And 2 of those years, they just give Houston their pick, which is why they need to trade Kevin Durant when his value is the highest, which is as soon as possible. Kevin Durant's only getting older. Durant, well, yeah. Well, here's the thing a couple months ago. I don't know if it was the highest then because I think people thought they had to trade him. You know what I mean? Like, if you have to, let me do a bad analogy.
His value goes down because they know that.
He's right, but the fact, so if you, let's say, when you were leaving Kansas City, you were moving here, and you said to your friends, guys, I have to sell my car. There's nowhere for me to keep it. In New York, I have to sell it. They might say, okay, I'll give you $2,000 for it. Like $2,000, it's worth at least 3.
Right.
So you'll give me $2,000 for it, but then you move to New York and don't sell it. It's like I'm leaving it in my auntie's driveway, not selling it.
Right.
Now you might get $2,500 for it. You know what I mean? Like once you've shown you won't
budge. Right.
Won't budge.
Right.
So I actually think Durant's value is slightly higher now than it was in the summer, and because he's playing at such a high level, anybody that was worried, the playoffs were the canary in the coal mine, that he's deteriorating. No, Durant's been unbelievable. Right. Unbelievable.
Scary as hell.
Right. So scary. But they've got no path forward. Back to the Kyrie thing on 2 points. One is, one of the big reasons they traded for James Harden was because Kyrie was taking unannounced leave of absences.
Yeah.
And was unreliable.
Right.
So they traded Karis LeVert, Jared Allen, and all those picks I just mentioned. 5 picks to Houston for James Harden. They then traded James Harden for Seth Curry, Ben Simmons, and that one pick. So because of the Harden trade, which does fall on Sean Marks, but Kyrie was a big reason they felt they needed to do it, they traded Karis LeVert, Jared Allen, and 5 first-round picks for Seth Curry, Ben Simmons, who right now might be the worst contract in the sport, and 1 first-round pick. That's the net in, net out. Total disaster, right? So I think the Nets they lost their first game without Nash. The idea that this is salvageable, I think, is insane. So I think they have to burn the whole thing down again. And the only way they can burn it down and have a quick path to relevance again, since they don't have their own picks, is by trading Durant. So I do think that the Durant trade still is out there. I don't think Durant wants to spend one of the last years of his prime on a bad team, and they're a bad team. And I know we're going to talk about the coach. Nash was a huge part of why they were...
He was not competent.
No, he was a terrible coach. I've been saying that since I felt about him the way I felt about Nat Hackett. You knew it after a month. Right. This guy didn't know what he was doing, but they have such bigger systemic issues, and we haven't talked much about it. The fact that Ben Simmons might be totally broken as a basketball player is
one of the weirdest stories.
It's sad, man.
Yeah.
It's a sad story.
Yeah, man.
He got so deep in his own head. You know what? I know
it's really sad.
It's sad, but it also is a good lesson for people. And we're sorry, the clock sucks. I blame the clock. It's a good lesson for people, and I'm gonna say this to you, but it's noteworthy for anybody, for everybody. So I have not always done the greatest job of setting an example of taking care of my own mental health and making sure that I stay well balanced. I show kind of some addict behavior at times, and you know what I mean? When when I'm really stressed out, I just go buy a cigarette. That's not the way to handle things or whatever.
Right.
And listen, you're your own man, you're a grown man, but I think people always take lessons from their parents. My dad, when he was super stressed out, would have a drink. You know what I mean? These are not the greatest models. And I have tried to sometimes subtly, sometimes less than subtly, be like, hey, I should, we all should, but you should have someone to talk to, you know what I mean, to make sure your mind stays right.
Right.
And you, I have been hesitant at that. Maybe I'll think about it, maybe I won't. It's hard to take that plunge. Here's why I bring it up. Ben Simmons, number 1 pick of the draft, all NBA, $150 million. Got so deep in his own head about insecurities and unhappiness, it might have derailed his entire career. You can't achieve your way out of either unhappiness or anxieties or whatever. And that's been the hard thing for me, is to realize no level of professional success is going to fill that hole, or you know what I mean, make me figure that stuff out. And it's a good lesson for everybody and I do applaud NBA players. John Wall's talked about it. Kevin Love's talked about it, more open about that. But I feel badly for Ben.
Yeah.
He can't be enjoying playing basketball. The fans boo. It's tough. Okay. So that's another thing they've got dealing with. Luckily, it looks like the Nets are going to bring in a coach that I'm sure will calm the waters and bring no controversy with him. Let's get to our next topic.
All right, with Nash gone, the Nets decided to go all in on controversy. Woj is reporting they are finalizing a deal to hire the suspended Celtics coach, Ime Udoka.
Yep.
Yeah. The Celtics didn't even ask for anything in return, which is a pretty bad sign, it seems like. There is no doubt that Udoka is a great coach, but no one's sure what's really happened. No one's sure what really happened in Boston.
Yeah.
Am I crazy to think that this actually might work? Which I do believe.
It might work, but there's a lot of levels to this one as well. Okay? So, first one, the Nets nobody knows what happened in Boston. That's correct.
Right.
If it was as simple as a consensual workplace relationship that was just against the Celtics rules that gets messy because he theoretically is in a big position of power as the head coach, but there were no complaints, nothing untoward, that's one thing. If it's what Matt Barnes implied was going on when he was doing the Instagram video live from his car, that it was way worse than that, and the Celtics' own investigation says there were some crude comments or something, that takes us different levels. No matter what, you would want to fully vet it. The Nets are going to claim we vetted this. My question is when? While Nash was still your head coach? When? What's the... It was reported that Udoka was getting this job. Within hours of it being reported, Nash was fired. So when either you didn't vet it or you had decided you were done with Nash weeks ago and went into the season with him. That's ridiculous. That's the non-basketball part. The basketball part, Haralabos Voulgaris, who is the greatest NBA gambler of all time, he made so much, Demonte, talk about living the dream. Haralabos, who's a buddy of mine, made so much money gambling and playing poker. And he was then an early Bitcoin investor. That he now, this guy was a sky cap at a Canadian airport, saved all his money up, became a professional sports bettor, little poker, then got into crypto. Now owns one of the prettiest yachts you'll ever see and just bought a Spanish soccer team. Owns CD Castellan. Bought the soccer team.
I love it.
And using his analytical models from the NBA to try to help, in soccer, they're a third tier team. They're not in the top league.
Right.
Trying to get them promoted. What a life, right? He made the point that Udoka had on his staff Will Hardy and Joe Mazzulla. So Will Hardy is now the coach of the Jazz. Maybe the most surprisingly good team in the league. Joe Mazzulla's coaching the Celtics. They haven't seemed to miss a beat, right? So that's not to say Udoka's not excellent, but it will be interesting to see him without those two guys. How much of the X's and O's or whatever were those two guys? The question will be, of course, will he get the Nets to buy in on defense? That's the question everyone's asking. The reason I think that's the wrong question is, let's say the Celtics last year and the Nets with Udoka have the exact same level of defensive buy-in. It's a big difference. If you have Jaylen Brown, Marcus Smart, Robert Williams, and Tatum to throw out there defensively, and Derek White, as opposed to the Nets have. The thing that everyone's always been like, the Nets just don't try on defense. And they don't have the personnel.
Right.
They're short. They're not crazy athletic. Will he be an upgrade over Nash immediately?
Yeah.
Will it be enough to fix what I believe is a broken roster? Durant not wanting to be there, all of that? No. And last point on Kyrie. Wilds made this point on TV yesterday. Okay. So Kyrie's now released this statement. He's given this money. He's going to be able to come back. What are the odds Kyrie Irving pitches a perfect game the rest of the year? He doesn't step in it again on something. Like the last 3 years with the Nets, he took a 2-week leave of absence, reportedly because he was so disturbed by what happened January 6th at the Capitol. I was disturbed by what happened there. The whole country should have been more disturbed than it was. It was I wouldn't have had that on my bingo card of why Kyrie misses half a month, is that. The next year, he's like, I've decided I'm anti-vaccine mandate. Well, that's new. This year, I'm going to dabble in some unintentional anti-Semitism and then be obstreperous when I'm asked about it. It's such random, controversy.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? The idea that now he's going to go the next 6 months and not all of a sudden, like, what's the next thing?
Yeah.
Like, there's no way to predict it. Like, it's and they're all just so, it's like, wait, what? And so,
whimsical dude.
right, whimsical is a great word for it. All right, next one.
The poll.
By the way, the poll says 62% say they think the Udoka hire will backfire. One last point on that. Sorry. There is how do I put this? So there was weird kind of like in the shadows reporting that the Udoka thing is ugly. It's bad. Go ahead.
I think that he did something with like somebody that was above him's wife. Like I think it's like one of the only thing that makes sense.
Okay, so I thought that initially too. That's not what it was.
It's like they're not talking about it, and if it was like so bad,
right? Okay, so that I thought when I initially saw it, and I was like, he's suspended for a year for what's called a consensual relationship. I thought the same thing too. Just also, this is a good learning moment for you here, real quick. We should be careful on stuff like that just because there are so few people above the head coach in an organization. We're down to like 4 people who you could be talking about. So I understand what you're saying there. That's fine. We'll call that learning on the fly. But you know what I mean? It's
no, I get it.
if you want it, if you're gonna throw something out there, you want it to be a huge pool of candidates,
Right.
not like, well, it's these 4 people. But there was initial reporting is real bad. And then the reporting stopped. And the thought process by many was it stopped because it was going to do real damage to the woman involved, and if that woman had a family or children or whatever. Didn't want to do damage there, particularly if that woman was married or something, right? And the reason I think sometimes reporters make a journalistic choice of, he's already been suspended. He's not going to coach this year. What is gained by this? There was a basketball player a few years ago who had someone close to them pass, and it was a real tragedy. And then I think everyone found out the circumstance of the passing was not necessarily as, I don't want to say innocent, but some bad decisions were made that led to the passing, and nobody reported it. Because it was like, what's the, you know what I mean? That person's not a famous, you know what I mean? It just caused more pain. So here's why I bring that up. I think there's the thought process that there's more to this story. It wasn't reported to protect that person, possibly. And what's the point of it? He's already suspended. Is there a chance now, if he gets a new job and there is something to gain from reporting it, like, whoa, this guy should not be the head coach of a team, that it then comes out?
Right.
Net's got to be very careful of that. They better really have vetted this, because you can't hire him and then 2 weeks later, and I don't know what happened. You know what I mean? Something comes out, it's like, oh my God. Like, so, all right, now we'll move on. Go ahead.
All right, only 2 more topics to go.
Good. We've only been, we're only already 7 minutes over. Go
Mr.
ahead.
Load Management Kawhi Leonard is nowhere to be found. He's only appeared in 2 games this season, averaging 21 minutes a game off the bench, and did not travel with the team to Texas.
Yeah.
The 4-4 Clippers may need a superstar if they want to avoid the play-in.
Yeah.
You said on your TV show that there are 30 guys you'd rather have on your team rather than Kawhi Leonard this year.
Yeah.
With a bunch of NBA teams struggling with their stars right now, are the Clippers quietly in one of the worst situations?
Oh, I don't think it's the worst, but it's a disaster.
Yeah.
It's a total disaster.
Kawhi Leonard, that's another really weird story.
Listen, either he doesn't love playing,
Yeah.
which I used to think. When when he first got with the Clippers, he took a game off before Halloween. It was like game 3. They're like, load management. Like, you gotta be kidding me. The guy's not injured. Or his body just can't handle it. I mean, he tore his ACL a long time ago. And did he re-injure it? They're being cagey about it. The reason I said there's 30 guys I'd rather have, I included Paolo Banchero, Cade Cunningham, Evan Mobley, Drew Holiday, because the Clippers are an idea, not a team.
Yeah.
And
John Wall's going to be pissed.
Well, I mean, listen, John Wall's happy to be playing again. It just sucks. This is a guy, Bill Walton, you remember him from our NBA shows, the top 50 of the last 50.
Yeah.
Bill Walton is, in my opinion, the second greatest college player ever, behind Kareem, was, I think, 78-1 in college. Something crazy. Won player of the year every year in college, won a championship every year, goes to the NBA, almost immediately wins an MVP. The very next year, wins finals MVP and a title. Breaks his foot. Has an injury. And is never the same. Like, he played
Back
like...
then it was a little bit different.
Of course. No. Way different.
Right.
Point is this. Kawhi's like the modern version of like Gale Sayers, Bill Wall. Like, at his apex, he's one of the 5 best players in the league. But it's sad. It is, at this point, it has gone from annoyance about his lack of playing to sadness that will he ever be an all-star again? I don't know.
And the thing about Kawhi is it doesn't ever really seem like he seems to like actually care about it. But that's just like his
That's the other thing demeanor. Is his persona and demeanor
right.
makes it seem like he's apathetic when it might just be who he is.
Right.
All right, next.
All right, Rams-Bucks. Coming into this year, Rams-Bucks had to be circled on everybody's calendar, man.
Yep.
Midway through the season, it's a total stinker.
Mm-hmm.
With only one afternoon game on, we're going to be forced to watch this train wreck.
Oh, yeah. Well, listen, not forced. It's on Fox. It's going to be great. 20 million people are watching. Very excited to watch it. Go ahead.
We love Fox.
Yeah.
Both teams are underperforming with the Rams at 3-4 and the Bucks at 3-5. Which team is more desperate for a win? And will this game turn somebody's season around, or should we expect more of the same?
Okay, I'd say they're both equally desperate. I think this is almost an elimination game for both of these teams. But I don't think the Rams can win. I think the Rams are broken. I think the Bucks are underperforming. That's the difference. I think the Rams have the dead last offense on a per play basis in the whole league. The worst offense in the whole league.
Coming off a Super Bowl, that's insane.
It's unbelievable. Their losses on the offensive line they can't overcome. Now the Bucks also lost a lot of people on the offensive line. I still think the Bucks are going to win that division. I still think the Bucks are going to be dangerous. I think the Bucks are going to win this game, and I think the Rams are finished. Now, if the Rams beat the Bucks, then I will have been wrong. But go ahead.
Had Stafford and Brady been on different teams, like say they were inverted, would you have like more faith
in the Rams?
I mean, obviously their season probably would have been going.
I don't know that Brady could overcome. The Rams' offensive line is the worst in football right now. They have a lot of the same issues. I think the Rams' issues are worse. The Rams have better individual players on defense, but I think the Bucks might have the better overall defense.
Makes sense.
So yeah, I think that you would need not only a top flight quarterback, but a top flight mobile quarterback for the Rams offense to have any chance at working. Right. You need someone that could escape that pressure. I like the Bucks. I think it's a must-win game for both. Take a quick break. Come right back. What's right? Welcome back in. What's right, Nick Wright, episode 90. That was a very long A block.
Yeah.
That was a very long A block.
Man, the Nets are just...
Well, there's just a lot going on. There's a lot going on. All right, we'll get to the Lakers game at some point in this segment, but we're going to try to have a somewhat condensed B block because C block's going to go long because we have to do the book club and answer the listener questions. If you're watching us live on YouTube right now, put your questions and comments in the chat and we'll get to them. All right, DeMonte, go ahead.
Titans.
Oh, this is a big game.
A big game.
The Titans are 5-2. They've won 5 in a row.
Oh, I just don't see it as big. I mean,
it's Sunday Night Football.
Yeah.
Chiefs Titans is a rematch of the AFC Championship game 2 years.
Yeah, given like their history that we're about to talk about.
Yeah.
The Chiefs are back off a bye and back in prime.
I should say. Go ahead.
Back in prime time. They take on the Tennessee Derrick Henry Sunday night.
Yep.
Kansas City does have the third best run defense in the league, though.
Can I jump in real quick there?
Jump in.
I think that's a little misleading.
I think third best run defense?
Yeah, because I think the Chiefs' pass defense has been so bad, teams are not running. I think teams are passing. They're passing in suits for a couple reasons. One is they're usually losing, so they need to throw. Another is throwing is more efficient than running. And I think the Chiefs have a good run defense. I don't think they have a top 3 run defense. But go ahead.
Very sharp by you.
Yeah.
And since you think the Chiefs got the best receiver since Randy Moss and Kadarius Toney, they should be unstoppable now, right?
Okay. Real quick on the Kadarius Toney thing.
We love Kadarius Toney.
I like the value. The guy runs a 4.3, was a first-round pick a year and a half ago, had a monster game as a rookie. Then got
He's like
COVID issues.
the Wolverine meme, rubbing his little photo of Tyreek Hill.
Well, yeah. Poor man's Tyreek Hill. Bit of a knucklehead, similar to Tyreek Hill. Similar, like, neck to Tyreek Hill, which I like. So a lot of those things I like. Also was an awesome punt returner in college. The Chiefs' punt returner, rookie Sky Moore, has been a disaster.
Threw one of the games.
Just a disaster.
Wait, he actually did throw a game.
Yeah, they lost the Colts game, and then fumbled one in a recent game as well. Like, so I do like the Kadarius Toney. I also like the fact that he's on this rookie deal for the next 2 years. Then you have a fifth-year option, so cheap at that position if he turns into something. But go ahead.
All right, well, believe it or not, Titans are 4-1 against the Chiefs since drafting King Henry. 3-0 in the regular season. With Kansas City laying 12.5 points, no chance it's a trap game, right?
Well, listen, here's a fun one for you. Andy Reid off a bye. Andy Reid has coached 23 games in his career off a bye.
Okay.
His teams are 20-3. Andy Reid with an extra week to prepare is unbeatable. Okay, so I do not think the Chiefs will lose. Tannehill may or may not play. We don't know. I'm not comfortable laying the 12.5, though. I'll tell you that much. That's a whole lot of points. And the Titans are going to try to keep this a low possession game. Okay. Meaning they're going to run the ball, take 30 off the play clock. Run the ball, take 30 off the play clock. I also do want to give the Titans credit. For this weekend, what the Titans did, now I know they're playing the Texans, but the box score of this game, DeMont, the Titans were up 17-3. They end up winning 17-10. You know, I didn't realize it was 7. I've been saying 17-3 on TV all week, but the Texans scored a touchdown with 20 seconds left. I didn't even know it happened. I had turned the game off. The Titans dominated that game. Malik Willis, the Titans starting quarterback that game, completed 6 passes for 55 yards and threw a pick. Oh, but he's a great runner. Theoretically, he ran the ball 5 times for 12 yards. Derrick Henry, on the other hand, against the Texans, is the greatest running back in NFL history. Derrick Henry, I think this is accurate, has 4 consecutive 200-yard games against the Texans. Somebody, Hubs, from the producer of my TV show, told me this. Someone extrapolated Henry's last 4 against the Texans into a 17-game season. It would be 4,000 yards and 38 touchdowns. Like, so I give the Titans credit for not being able to throw the ball and dominating that game. I give them credit for winning 5 in a row. I don't think they can beat the Chiefs. I'm not comfortable laying 12.5 though with the Chiefs in what I think is going to be a fast game, meaning the Titans are going to try to grind the clock. And you lay 12.5 if the Titans get the opening kickoff and score and they're up 7-0. You feel like your bet's almost dead already.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like all of a sudden you're like, wait, I need 3 consecutive touchdowns to be covering. I don't love that. All right, next.
It's time for a new game, and it is called Moving the Needle.
Yeah.
I will ask you about some news, whether that be a trade or a big win or loss, and you tell us, did it move the needle?
Yep.
All right, so first off, we got Lakers center Myles Turner came out talking about his value to the team. Here's what he said. Read off of the quote.
Yeah.
The only problem is he doesn't play for the Lakers. I'm supposed to read the quote and then say he doesn't play for the Lakers.
No, you're not supposed to say read off of the quote. That's a command.
Oh, crap. Sorry.
Okay, now you're cursing live on YouTube. That's DeMonte's first I'm Ron Burgundy moment.
Yeah. The quote's right there. We're going to read it.
Yeah, if I'm the Lakers, I take a very hard look at this with the position that you're in. I know what I can provide for a team. My shot blocking, my three-point ability, and my ability to make plays out there on the floor. I'd take a very long look at it. Now, DeMonte, go ahead. The only problem
is he doesn't play for the Lakers yet. Mm-hmm. If you're Rob Pelinka, did Turner's comments move the needle?
Well, they don't move the needle, so no. But I do like that he wants to be there. DeMonte's so embarrassed. That's so funny. Here's the thing. So Lakers won last night.
Right.
Matt Ryan hit a game-tying 3. You know what I'm going to be forced to talk about on television today? These charlatans. Big deal or no big deal. The game-tying 3 was drawn up for Matt Ryan, not LeBron James. What does it say about LeBron? They didn't trust him to take the game-tying 3.
The guy's old, but...
Well, he was also 0 for 7 from 3 in that game. He right now is in a huge shooting slump, and Matt Ryan is out
And
there.
he's never been a great shooter.
No, he's been a streaky three. Here's the thing about LeBron and three-point shooting. He will shoot 36% for the season. He won't shoot 36% in any month. He will have a month where he shoots 42% and a month where he shoots 25%, and it averages out. So he goes hot, you know what I mean? Like, he's not. Klay Thompson's the opposite. Klay Thompson's going to shoot 40% or 39% every month. You know what I mean?
Right.
He might have games where he gets hot, but he's a metronome. That's not who LeBron is. Here's what I think for the Lakers. The Russell Westbrook off the bench thing is temporarily working. What the Lakers have to do is stay afloat until they trade Russ.
All right.
They have to and it's not because Russ is their biggest problem. I mean, Beverly's been terrible, and Russ off the bench has been fine. But you can't win in this league without any shooting. That's why Matt Ryan, who should not be an NBA player, is getting crunch time minutes for the Lakers, because you have to have some shooting. The Lakers, Myles Turner would come with Buddy Hield, which would be some shooting. But the reason they haven't made that trade yet is not because they think they're going to keep Russ. It's because they want to see if a better trade materializes. You know, I wouldn't do it at this point. I think he's too unreliable and toxic. But the Kyrie thing could come available again. That's like on the board. And
I mean, they're almost even.
What do you mean?
Like given Russ's problems and given Kyrie's
yes, but
problems.
they're so different problems. You know what I mean? Like, one's a basketball problem and one is.
I mean, with Kyrie coming off the 4-point game, if that type of stuff continues.
Well, right. So there's a lot. My point is, the reason the Lakers haven't already traded for Myles Turner and Buddy Hield is because they believe a better trade's going to come available. I think they thought the Blazers, there might be a Blazers trade, but the Blazers are good. If the Jazz decide we're winning too much, we're trying to tank, see what happens there. You know what I mean? There might be a Charlotte trade with Terry Rozier and Gordon Hayward. They're waiting to see, but no, this comment doesn't move the needle. All right, next.
Okay, after trading away their two best defensive players, the Bears decided to trade for wide receiver Chase Claypool. How much does Claypool move the needle for Justin Fields?
A little bit. It moves. I mean, it gives him a real receiver. Ryan Poles, though, the new GM of Chicago, did make a mistake. So Chase Claypool was expendable in Pittsburgh because they drafted George Pickens, who has taken his spot. Ryan Poles passed on George Pickens in the second round of this year's draft twice and is now trading next year's second rounder for the guy that got replaced by George Pickens. That's not great. But the Bears have a ton of money. They stripped it all down, but what they forgot was by not spending any money on offensive line or wide receiver, we're not going to be able to really evaluate Justin Fields fairly. So now they're going to have a better chance of evaluating him while they try to kind of tank. I understand it. Next.
Hopefully he can stay in the pocket. Both the Dolphins and Ravens made big trades at the deadline. The Dolphins went all in on Bradley Chubb, and the Ravens traded for Roquan Smith. Both teams seem to think that they're title contenders. Which of the Miami or Baltimore trades moved the needle for
Both.
you? Both.
Listen, they are clearly now the third and fourth best teams in the conference. They are, no disrespect to the Titans. They already were looking like that. They both have excellent offenses when their quarterback plays well. And in Miami, the quarterback doesn't even always have to play well. Tyreek Hill, by the way, has been the best player in the league this year. He's been the best player. He and Micah Parsons have been the two best players in the league so far this year. They won't win MVP because it's quarterback-only award. They've been unbelievable. Tyreek has been truly sensational. But both of those teams trying to upgrade their defense, which is where they need help, makes sense. I'll tell you the other thing that I do like, though. I like everyone in the AFC sending out big future draft capital to the NFC while the Chiefs draft their own guys, get draft capital, and to me, it positions the Chiefs really well moving forward. So the Raiders traded all that for Devontae Adams, right? The Broncos gave all that up for Russell Wilson. The Ravens now traded pick for Roquan Smith. The Dolphins traded for Bradley Chubb. I
He's
understand,
got Kadarius Toney.
but they didn't trade real draft capital. They traded a compensatory third for Kadarius Toney. The Bills, to their credit, have not given up much stuff, but they gave all that money to Von Miller, and their salary cap issue is going to be an issue for him. I just think it really positions the Chiefs well moving forward, and I still think they're the best team in the conference this year, despite everybody else doing that. But I'm really interested to see Miami with a dominant pass rush could be a legitimately dangerous team. So I'm really interested to watch that. And the Ravens, Roquan's going to be perfect there. Next.
All right. You had a shot to go 4-1 in your picks last week until the Bengals got embarrassed by the Browns on Monday Night Football.
Mm-hmm.
With a win, Cincy would have kept pace with the 5-3 Ravens. Instead, they're a game back.
Yeah.
Is the Bengals primetime blowout a needle mover for you?
No. Here's what we know about the Bengals. They have a fatal flaw, but against most teams, they can overcome it. So who are the 3 best edge rushers in football? Micah Parsons, TJ Watt, Myles Garrett. The 3 times the Bengals offense has looked awful, they were playing Micah Parsons, TJ Watt, Myles Garrett. Now, it's a flaw they're going to need to fix because TJ Watt and Myles Garrett are in their division, so they play them 4 times a year. So that's a problem for them, but I think the Bengals are still going to make the playoffs. I think they thought they fixed their offensive line. They clearly haven't, and they missed Jamar Chase. But I still believe in the Bengals' ability to make the playoffs. All right, next.
All right. One of the most shocking moves at the deadline was the Jaguars trading for suspended Calvin Ridley.
Hold on real quick. Do you know why Calvin Ridley suspended?
Was it the drugs?
No. He was out last year, and when he was out, he placed a 3-team parlay in his name on the NFL, and they suspended him for a year. It's like a $200 parlay, and they suspended him for a year because you're not allowed to gamble on the NFL, even though he wasn't gambling on the Falcons, and he wasn't.
That's a big.
Well, they're right. Well, they were.
I get they want to crack down.
Yeah, they want to crack down, especially now that game.
Give somebody a little penalty, somebody else more.
Exactly. But it's just so. Go ahead and ask the question.
Does the trade for the known sports gambler move the needle for your likelihood to bet on the Jags again before Thanksgiving?
Well, before Thanksgiving, listen, I had a 1-month sabbatical of betting on the Jags. So let's see when I'm allowed to bet on the Jags again. So the Jaguars, I got to go to their schedule real quick. So last week was week 1. I said I wouldn't bet them for 4 weeks. Oh, no. Yeah, I'm not allowed because they have a bye. So this week is Las Vegas. Next week is Kansas City. The week after, they're on a bye. And then they're home for Baltimore. Oh, I love betting on Baltimore, too.
Yeah.
You know what? Jags at Lions. Mark it down. That's going to be when I get back with the Jags. Jags at Lions, December 4th. Calvin Ridley, though, I like the trade to help Trevor Lawrence out next year. I mean, he's suspended for this year, so you're buying low on Calvin Ridley. All right, next. Last.
Bonus. DeMonte will read whatever is on the page for the producers. Does this move the needle? Yeah, I'm a robot.
That was embarrassing.
That was the last
No,
one.
the
Oh,
first
yeah, I was going to say.
No, that was fine.
Yeah.
The first one. I mean, listen.
No, I mean, as I said that, like, I was just like, you know.
Have you seen Anchorman?
No.
Oh, you haven't?
No.
Oh, that's an all-time funny movie. And Ron Burgundy is Will Ferrell's you like Will Ferrell.
He's the main character.
He's the main character. He in the very beginning of the movie, he ends every newscast with "I'm Ron Burgundy." And they put a question mark on it accidentally in the prompter. And he goes, "I'm Ron Burgundy?" And they're like, "Guys, I've told you. He'll read whatever's on the prompter." And spoiler alert for Anchorman. Then he gets in a little dispute at work. And so at the end of the show, instead of "stay beautiful" or "stay healthy, San Diego," or whatever he says, someone puts in there, "Go bleep yourself, San Diego." And he reads it, and he leads to his disgrace and downfall. That's like the punchline. So that's why I said it was your Ron Burgundy moment. All right, guys, while DeMonte will read whatever's on the prompter, he won't read this book. You guys have, however. We will do a quick version of our book club, and then we'll read your guys' questions from the chat. That's next. What's right? Welcome back in. What's right, Nick Wright, episode 90. All right, before we get to your comments and questions, so we started a book club last week. Our book is E.H. Gombrich's A Little History of the World. Shout out to Eric, who says he's already finished the book. Super good read. Love the perspective it gave. Lots of interesting tidbits and insight to how people lived in each civilization. So the premise of this book, for a little background, if people are just joining us on it, is he was asked to write a book for fourth graders, telling them the history of the world, wrote it, and now it's become one of the best-selling, easiest to digest history books. And it really starts from pre-Mesopotamia and gets us up to like the 1900s, which is, he wrote, I think, 1930. So I just want to give you guys, we got up to page 80 this week. I want to give you guys a few tidbits, because he goes civilization by civilization in chronological order. We talked about the first 30 pages last week. He really loved and was impressed with the Greeks, and talked about how Greek architecture is still prevalent to this day. I'm going to read you a piece from it. I mean, he clearly thinks the Greeks were the smartest people ever to live. Both wisdom of thought and beauty of form were to be united by the Athenians in a third art, the art of poetry. And here, too, they invented something new, the theater. Their theater, like their sport, because they also invented the Olympics, obviously, was also once bound up with their religion, with festivals held in honor of their god Dionysus, also known as Bacchus. On his feast day, performances held could last all day. And they had, I'm not going to read this entirely, but talked about how, their serious plays were called tragedies, their funny plays were called comedies. And I could tell you lots more about the Athenians, about their histories, about their doctors, their singers, their thinkers, their artists. But I think it would be better for you to find out about them yourself one day. Then you'll see that I haven't exaggerated. I will tell you, that chapter made me want to visit Greece more than anything ever before. See Athens, see all that. He then takes us to India, where he tells us in 10 pages about Buddha and the Enlightened One, and how Buddha was a prince that grew up in a palace, never left the palaces, grew up in all this splendor. And his name was, I apologize if I mispronounce it, Gautama. And he decided that he wanted to find peace of thought, and went out into the woods and sat under a tree and didn't eat or drink for days. And that was, and I'm giving again the very short version of it, he thought it brought him enlightenment, and that is what led to Buddhism. That is what was the creation of that religion. And he goes on to write, I can already hear you say, because he thought the key to life was not wanting anything, was that the belief was what causes unhappiness is that you don't have something you want. So the true key to happiness was to teach yourself to not want. Exactly. And he writes, I can already hear you saying, that's all very well, but people can't help wanting things. The Buddha thought otherwise. He says that it's possible to control our desires, but to do so, we need to work on ourselves, perhaps even for years, so that in the end, we only have desires. We only have the desires we want to have. In other words, we can become masters of ourselves in the same way that an elephant driver learns to control his elephant. The essential message of Buddha's sermons, and these sermons made such a deep impression on people, many followed him and worshipped him as a god. Today, there are almost as many Buddhists in the world as Christians, especially in Southeast Asia and Sri Lanka, Tibet, China, and Japan, but not many of them are able to live their lives in accordance with the Buddhist teachings and so achieve that inner calm. That inner calm is a state called nirvana. These are things people I'm sure have heard about. It was fascinating enough to me, I bought a book on Buddha. I won't include that in the book club because I think that might be a little too dry. It was fascinating. He then talked about Confucius, which I'm sure everyone's heard the kind of trite sayings. Confucius say this. Confucius was a Chinese man who had a very unique life philosophy. What Confucius proposed is quite simple. You may not like it, but there's more wisdom in it than first meets the eye. What he taught was this: outward appearances are more important than we think. Bowing to our elders, letting others go through a door first, standing up to speak to a superior, and many other similar things for which they had more rules in China than we have. All such practices, he believed, were not just a matter of chance. They meant something, or had done once, usually something beautiful, which is why Confucius said, I believe in antiquity and I love it. By this he meant he believed in the sound good sense of all the many thousands-year-old customs and habits, and he repeatedly urged his fellow countrymen to observe them. He thought that everything in life ran more smoothly if people did, almost by itself, as it were, without the need to think about it too hardly. Of course, such behavior does not make good people, but it helps them stay good. Confucius had a very good opinion of humanity. He said that all people were born honest and good, and that deep down they remained so. Anyone seeing a small child playing near the water's edge will worry that it would fall in. Concern for our fellow human beings and sympathy for the misfortunes of others, he believed, are inborn sentiments. All we need to do is make sure we do not lose them. And that, Confucius said, is why we have families. Someone who's always good to his parents, who obeys them and cares for them, and this comes naturally to us, will treat others the same way and will obey the laws of the state in the same way he obeys his father. Thus, for Confucius, the family, with its brotherly and sisterly love and respect for parents, was the most important thing of all. He called it the root of humanity. I gotta tell you, I knew nothing about Confucius. It's one of the most beautiful sentiments I've ever heard.
Yeah.
And I didn't know I agreed with it. Were you laughing at me?
No, I love it.
But I never thought about it that way. But it is like you do. This is the version of you learn a lot from someone by how they treat servers.
Yeah.
Are they courteous and polite and kind to people they don't have to be?
Right.
I feel like that's like there's a lot of things I could, if I haven't been single in 15 years. But if I were single, there's a lot of things I think I could overlook in someone. But if on a first date they were crummy to the server, I think it'd be like, I could never do it. Man. You've dealt with that.
Yes.
And it's so uncomfortable and you feel badly and you're like, there's no way to get past this. Right. I didn't realize it. That's Confucian. You know what I mean? And so the next chapter, though, is not a religious book. The next chapter is about Alexander the Great. It's a long chapter. And I got to tell you, Alexander the Great was a bad dude. Took over when he was 20. By the time he was 30, had conquered the entire known world. And it's unbelievable what he did. The Alexander the Great stuff is so fascinating. I'll give you one little Alexander the Great.
Was he short?
You're thinking of Napoleon.
No, I know Napoleon was
I don't
short.
know if he was short or not.
Okay.
But I'm going to give you one cool anecdote about Alexander the Great. This is after he went to Egypt, conquered it, and set up Alexandria, named it after himself. He had great plans. He wanted to found many more cities like Alexandria. He wanted to build roads, change the faces of the world with his military campaigns, whether the Greeks liked it or not. He was Greek. Just imagine in those days to have a postal service running from India to Athens. But in the midst of all his plans, he died in Nebuchadnezzar's summer palace in 323 BC. He was nearly 32 years. He was barely 32 years old. But that's actually not the anecdote I wanted to read you. This is it. Here we go. So Alexander also in battles would be at the front. He would fight.
Oh, he was in the field.
He was in the field.
Okay.
He would fight and lead them. And there's a lot of people who know a lot more about Alexander than I do. I knew almost nothing. There have been books and movies and everything written about him. But there's a nice quick history. So I'm going to read you this anecdote, then we'll move on from book club this week. Alexander himself was no less valiant, as is shown by his encounter with an Indian king. King Porus had lain in wait for him on a branch of the Indus River with a mighty army of war elephants and foot soldiers. When Alexander reached the river, the king's army was positioned on the far bank, and Alexander and his soldiers had no choice but to cross the river in the face of the enemy host. His success was one of his greatest feats. He won the battle. Yet even more remarkable was his victory over that army. In the stifling heat of India, Porus, the other king, was brought before him in chains. "What do you want of me?" asked Alexander. The King Porus says, "Only that you treat me as befits a king." "That is all?" "That is all. There is no more to be said." Alexander was so impressed that was his response. He let Porus keep his kingdom. It's like, okay, I beat you in battle. All you want is me to treat you like a king. Treat you like a king. You keep it. I don't, again, this is such a brief history. I'm sure there's a lot about Alexander the Great I'm not learning about. I'm sure there were some really awful things he did. But in this short version of it, the guy was pretty fascinating. Our last chapter was about the Romans. I got to tell you, I screwed up. I highlighted a ton in that in my book. I forgot my book today. DeMonze has his, so we're going to move on from here. We're supposed to be up to page 80, which starts with an enemy of history, which was about, a little spoiler alert, a new leader of China who then didn't like history and wanted all the histories burnt. He wanted it to start with him, and we talked about the Great Wall and all that stuff. This week, for next week book club, we're going to get up to chapter 25. So that will take us to page 155. We're going to get up to chapter 25 for next week's book club. All right, DeMonze, what are our comments?
How about that for a little bit of history of the world, baby?
And by the way, they won't all be history books. Next month, we're reading a gambling book. But go ahead. What are our listener questions?
All right, fans. ZCB asks, should Chargers explore other coaching options already if Staley can't make a playoff appearance/run with Herbert?
Yeah, I mean, listen, I like Staley. He hasn't done a good job this year. I think that they need to do a full court press on Sean Payton. Sean Payton coming to the AFC West with Justin Herbert would scare me so much more than Russell Wilson coming to the AFC West. So, yeah, but if you can't get Sean Payton, give Staley another year. Next.
Hyperion Joe Smith. Yeah. His question is, where should the next NFL franchise be?
They don't need more.
Okay.
32 is good. 8 4-team divisions. You don't need to expand.
Okay.
So if you were telling me their depth, first of all, here's the thing with the NFL. Can't have an odd number. If you have an odd number, somebody has a bye in week 1, somebody has a bye at the end of the season. You need an even number. So you need to add 2 teams. So you know what I mean? So like the should San Diego get a team back? Yeah, the Chargers could go back. Like, is there a city that I feel like desperately needs an NFL team that doesn't have one?
Somewhere in Maine.
No, Maine's a terrible idea.
Okay.
No big population centers. That's a bad idea.
Fair.
Run that one back. I mean, Austin.
Yeah.
Austin or San Antonio, one of those, I guess, could make sense. But I don't think we need more teams. If they expand, it's going to be internationally. It's going to be like Mexico City and London. And those teams are going to hard to get free agents. I think Toronto would be fine, but I think Toronto people like the Bills. All right, next.
All right, John Roca asks, can Luka break...
I think it's Johan.
Johan. Yeah, sorry, Johan. Johan Roca asks, can Luka break Wilt Chamberlain's record of 23 consecutive 30-plus point games?
No, he can't, but Luka started the year with 7 straight 30-point games. Yeah. Has not been done since Wilt.
He just did something that nobody's ever done before. I don't know what it was.
It's a lot. He's averaging 36, 9, and 9. The guy is the best offensive player in the league, bar none. Giannis is the best player because he's the best defensive player in the league and the second best offensive player. Right. But Luka's unbelievable. How unbelievable was it watching him in person?
It was awesome. It was definitely an experience. I liked him a lot more after seeing him in person.
He's so
not
good.
That I disliked him or anything.
But he's so good. All right, last one.
Justin Schlesinger asks, do you think there's any chance that the entire NFC East makes the playoffs?
No, Washington's not making the playoffs. It would mean that no wild card makes it from any other division, and Washington makes it. So no. Oh, we have a little breaking news real quick, and then we'll go. Adam Silver just released a statement on Kyrie. Oh, well, gosh, we're late here. I got to get to work. Adam Silver says, quote, Kyrie made a reckless decision to post a link to film containing deeply offensive anti-Semitic material. While we appreciate the fact that he agreed to work with the Brooklyn Nets and the ADL to combat anti-Semitism and other forms of discrimination, I am disappointed that he has not offered an unqualified apology or more specifically denounced the vile and harmful content contained in the film he chose to publicize. I will be meeting with Kyrie in person in the next week to discuss this situation. All right, Adam Silver just upped the ante. I'm not saying Adam Silver's wrong. I actually agree with him. But Kyrie's, listen, we have to go. Kyrie's heart, I don't think, is in the wrong place. I've said this before. But that statement was his statement was a version of, I apologize if you were offended
Right.
type
Not
of
I
thing.
apologize.
Not
that
I
did it.
apologize unequivocally.
Right.
Adam, if the NBA would have just said, that's fine, we're done with it, said nothing, they'd have moved on. But now, Adam Silver is meeting with him in person and going to see if Kyrie folds his hand. That makes this a lot messier. I thought there was a chance the NBA is like, let's just get past this. They've decided not to. And now I'm very interested to see how Kyrie responds. Kyrie doesn't like being backed into a corner, even if he backed himself into it. All right, that's today's show. Great work today, Ron Burgundy. All right, love you, buddy. All right, we'll see you guys tomorrow for the gambling show. What's right?
All right, fellas.
Hey, it's Nick Wright. Thank you so much for watching. Please do us a favor. Click subscribe. It helps my ego. And DeMonte's got a financial bonus writing on a number of YouTube subscribers, so help him out. And also, click the bell. I don't know what the bell does, but they tell me to tell you to click the bell. And your audio listeners, people that have commutes, drives, whatever it is, subscribe to the podcast as well, wherever you get the podcast. Same show, just in your ears instead of through your eyes. All that. Check it out. Appreciate y'all.